Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
637 on WMAL. Brian Eamon, Brian Wilson with you. We got KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst, coming up 1 hour from now. We'll talk to her at 7:37. Shannon Bream for the Fox News channel coming up at 7:06. We'll get into what happened yesterday at the Supreme Court, the hearing on Obamacare, and also Ken Cuccinelli, Virginia's Attorney General, on that same subject, coming up at 8:06
this morning. Call an all-star lineup.
That's right. And right now we're headed back down to Cuba live, where WMAL's Rick Fowler is. Been there for a couple of days now. And the Pope having Mass today. And yesterday he met with Raul Castro. Anything that we learned from that meeting yesterday, Rick?
Well, you may have known that there have been so many questions here, and we can answer quite a few of them this morning. They did have a meeting yesterday. It was at the Revolution Palace. It started late afternoon, about 5:30. They met for 2 hours, which is about an hour longer than the Pope usually will meet with a head of state.
Well, do they usually have a stopwatch on those things? I saw that, too. I thought that was interesting. Normally it's only an hour, and this one was 2 hours.
Well, they met and they discussed the idea of Good Friday becoming a Catholic holiday here in Cuba, a government holiday, which would be a step for the Catholic Church here. You probably heard that Fidel Castro will be meeting with the Pope later on today. Hugo Chavez is not going to be meeting with the Pope. He's here, of course, for the radiation therapy for the cancer, but he is not going to be meeting with the Pope. Chavez sent a message to the Pope about the Church. He said, I wish the Catholic Church to work harder for the poor, the choice of Christ, the Redeemer of the downtrodden. This is the task. It should be the core task of our Catholic and Roman Church. So we have some clarity there on the meeting with Chavez, but a lot of talk here about the meeting with Fidel Castro, and the entire country is very, very excited about this. I talked to a lot of Cuban people yesterday, and only 10% of the population is actually Catholic, but everybody I talked to thought it was a really big deal for the country that the Pope was here. It was very important, and everybody was very, very positive on it. Even though the majority of the people I talk to are not Catholic.
It used to be that the country was very agnostic from a political standpoint, and now it seems like since about the 1990s, the situation has sort of softened, and that had to do with Pope John Paul making a visit there. Do you see that it's going to continue to warm up the relations between the Cuban government and the Catholic Church?
Well, I would assume that it would. I mean, based on what we're seeing, there was the pushback yesterday from the Cuban government. Initially, when the Pope was bound for Cuba and Mexico, he was making some pretty strong comments about the political system here. The Pope backpedaled a little bit yesterday, and you may have heard that there was a pushback from the Cuban government. Marino Murillo is the economic czar. He's the vice president here, and he made a very blunt statement yesterday. He said, quote, in Cuba there will not be political reform. There's a lot of talk of economic reform, and when we talked about some of the things yesterday in terms of improving the economy and opening up the economy, but very, very strong wording there on political reform.
Well, when Pope John Paul II was there, I guess he asked for Christmas to be a national holiday, and it was amazing to me that it wasn't before. And do we believe, did he get an answer from Castro yesterday when Benedict asked the government to declare Good Friday a holiday?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I think that's probably under consideration.
Well, what's a bigger deal? Is it a bigger deal meeting for 2 hours with Raul Castro or meeting with Fidel Castro today? And by the way, is there a belief among the Cubans there of who still is running? Is Fidel still running the country, or do they believe that Raul is in control?
I think the sense here is that Raul is controlling the country, yeah. I don't think Fidel is sort of attributed with the power at this point. Of course, he's obviously the legend. The announcement that Castro made was on the government website. Is a very short announcement, but Fidel Castro said that I will happily greet Pope Benedict XVI as I did John Paul II, a man for whom contact with children and the humble raised feelings of affection.
Are you going to the Mass today?
Yes, I'll go up to Revolution Plaza. The Mass starts at 9 o'clock here.
And it's going to be broadcast live on television throughout the country, I'd assume?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
All right. Yeah. And then? Go ahead.
I wanted to tell you, Brian, I found you a car.
Oh, really?
I found you a cherry 57 Chevy convertible.
Oh, there you go. I'm in.
It's beautiful.
How do we get it here?
Well, the good news is that the cars down here, most of them are powered now by Soviet diesel engines.
Right.
They've changed the engines out, which is, so they pull up next to these things and they're smoking and making all this noise, but they keep rolling. It's amazing.
It is amazing. They keep those cars alive.
One of the cabs I rode was a 53 Cadillac convertible.
Sweet.
But it's amazing. I was talking with a young Cuban reporter yesterday, and I've been trying to sort of corroborate that people really make $20 a month here, and they really do. I mean, the various people that work for the government, the